The iron stake pierced through Clara's chest with a sickening crack, and the blood council chamber erupted in satisfied murmurs. She gasped, her fingers clawing at the cold stone floor as crimson spread across her servant's uniform. "Let this be a warning to all who dare deceive the ancient bloodlines," Evangeline announced from her gilded throne, her ruby lips curving into a smile. A human pretending to have the sight. How pathetic. Clara's vision blurred, but she could still see William standing at the back of the chamber, his silver eyes locked on her. The Vampire King had said nothing during her trial, had not defended her when Evangeline presented the evidence, a forged letter claiming Clara had been selling false prophecies to desperate vampires for coin. It was all lies, every word, but no one had believed her. "I never—" Clara choked on blood, her words dissolving into a wet cough. "Silence," one of the council members hissed. "Your death will be swift, more mercy than you deserve." But Clara didn't die. The iron stake, blessed by ancient magic and designed to kill anything with supernatural blood, should have ended her instantly. Instead, a strange warmth bloomed in her chest, spreading through her ribs like liquid fire. The pain shifted, transformed into something else entirely. She heard a sound like metal fusing with bone, felt her ribs restructuring around the stake, weaving through it, claiming it as part of her body. The murmuring in the chamber died. What is happening?" Evangeline's voice had lost its smugness. Clara pushed herself up from the floor, one hand pressed against her chest where the stake protruded. Blood still soaked her dress, but the wound had stopped bleeding. More than that, it was healing around the iron, sealing it inside her. She could feel the metal now as part of herself, as natural as her own heartbeat, except her heartbeat was different now. Slower, deeper, eternal. "Impossible," another council member breathed. "She should be dead!" William moved then, crossing the chamber in 3 long strides to stand between Clara and the council. His presence commanded instant attention, his power rolling off him in waves that made even the ancient vampires lean back in their seats. "The trial is over," William said, his voice carrying through the stone hall. "Anyone who touches her now answers to me." Evangeline shot to her feet, her perfect composure cracking. "My lord, she's clearly using some dark magic. She deceived us all." She deceived no one. William's silver eyes swept across the council, and Clara saw several of them flinch. "Clara has the sight. True sight. I've witnessed it myself. The prophecy she gave me 3 months ago came to pass exactly as she described." Clara's mind spun. He had believed her? All this time she'd thought he considered her just another servant in his vast estate, barely worthy of notice. She had delivered her visions to him in whispered words during his evening walks through the garden, never daring to meet his eyes, never imagining he actually listened. "Then why didn't you speak before the council convicted her?" Evangeline demanded, though her voice wavered slightly under William's stare. "Because I wanted to see who would betray her," William replied, "and who orchestrated this farce of a trial." The temperature in the chamber dropped 10 degrees. Evangeline's face went pale as a vampire's face could go, and Clara saw the truth dawn in her expression. William had known. He had known from the beginning that Evangeline had forged the evidence, had bribed the witnesses, had arranged everything to eliminate Clara. But why? Clara had asked herself this question 1,000 times during her imprisonment. She was nobody. A servant girl from the border villages who had been brought to the vampire capital after her parents died, sold to William's estate to work in the kitchens. Her visions had started 6 months ago, unbidden and overwhelming, showing her fragments of futures that hadn't happened yet. She'd been terrified at first, hiding them, until the night she'd seen William's death in a dream, betrayed by someone close to him, poisoned wine, his body burning in the sun. She'd broken every rule to warn him, had slipped into his private study in the dead of night, fallen to her knees, and told him everything. He listened without interruption, his silver eyes never leaving her face. Then he'd dismissed her with a single word, "Noted." She'd thought he hadn't believed her, but 2 weeks later his cousin had been arrested for treason, and the poison had been found in his wine stores. "My lord," Evangeline tried again, her tone shifting to honeyed persuasion. "Surely you can see that whatever she is now, she's dangerous. The stake merged with her body. That's not natural, not even for us." "Nothing about her has ever been natural," William said, and Clara's heart, her strange new heart, stuttered. "She's the first seer born in 300 years, the first human to carry the blood of the ancient oracles. And now," his gaze dropped to where the stake protruded from Clara's chest, and something flickered in his expression. Wonder, perhaps, or hunger. "Now she's something entirely new." Clara found her voice, though it came out different than before, stronger, clearer. "Why did you do this, Evangeline? I never hurt you. I never even spoke to you." Evangeline's beautiful face twisted with rage, and the mask finally fell away completely. "Because he looks at you," she snarled. "For 200 years I've been his companion, his confidant, the one he turns to. Then you appear with your visions and your pathetic human fragility, and suddenly I'm invisible." "You were always invisible," William said, each word dropping like a stone. "I kept you close because your family is powerful, because alliances matter. But I never looked at you the way you wanted. I never will." The other council members were watching now with undisguised interest, their political calculations practically visible on their faces. This was more than a failed execution. This was a shift in power. A declaration from their king that this human girl, this transformed creature, held value beyond anything Evangeline could offer. Clara's chest throbbed where the stake had merged with her ribs. But it wasn't painful anymore. It felt like power, coiled and waiting. She could sense things now that she couldn't before. The blood flowing through every vampire in the chamber. The ancient magic woven into the walls. The future branching out before her in 1,000 different possibilities, clearer and sharper than her visions had ever been. "I can see everything," she whispered, and heads turned toward her. Every choice, every consequence. The stake didn't kill me. It awakened something. "What do you see?" one of the council members asked, leaning forward. "Tell us, what futures do you see for the bloodlines?" But William's hand closed around Clara's wrist, his touch cold and grounding. "She tells no one anything," he said. "Not until we understand what she's become. Not until she's safe." "Safe?" Evangeline laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. "She's an abomination now. You think the council will just let her walk out of here? You think the other vampire houses won't hunt her when word spreads?" "They can try." William's power unfurled through the chamber like a living thing, pressing down on everyone present until several vampires dropped to their knees. I am your king. I have led these bloodlines for 4 centuries, and I am telling you now, Clara is under my protection. She is mine. Anyone who harms her, anyone who threatens her, anyone who so much as speaks her name with disrespect will face me. The silence that followed was absolute. Clara stared up at him, her mind struggling to process his words. Mine. He'd called her his. In vampire culture, that wasn't a casual claim. It was a declaration of ownership, of responsibility, of something far deeper than simple protection. My lord, she started, but he shook his head. Not here. Not now. His fingers tightened around her wrist. Can you walk? She nodded, though she wasn't entirely sure. Her body felt different, lighter somehow, despite the iron now fused with her bones. When William pulled her to her feet, she discovered she was steady, strong in ways she'd never been before. This isn't over, Evangeline hissed as they turned to leave. The council will demand answers. The other houses will. The council will do as I command, William interrupted, not bothering to look back at her. As for you, Evangeline, your family's alliance with my house is severed. You have until sunrise to leave the capital. If I see you after dawn, I'll kill you myself. Evangeline's shriek of rage followed them out of the chamber, but William didn't slow his pace. He led Clara through the marble corridors of the council building, past guards who pressed themselves against the walls as their king passed, past courtiers who whispered behind their hands. Clara kept her head high, one hand still pressed against the protruding stake in her chest, aware of every stare, every gasp. The night air hit her face when they emerged into the courtyard, and she gasped. Everything was sharper now. She could smell the blood roses blooming in the gardens, could hear conversations happening 3 buildings away, could sense the life force of every creature within 100 yards. The transformation hadn't made her a vampire. Her heart still beat. She could still feel warmth in her skin. But she'd become something else. Something that defied classification. William's carriage waited in the courtyard, black lacquer gleaming under the moonlight. He handed her inside without ceremony, then climbed in after her, rapping twice on the roof to signal the driver. As the carriage lurched into motion, Clara finally allowed herself to collapse against the velvet cushions, exhaustion crashing over her. "Are you in pain?" William asked, and she realized he was studying her with those intense silver eyes. "No," she admitted. I should be dead. But I feel powerful." The stake was made from iron forged in dragonfire, blessed by the first vampire elders. It's designed to destroy anything with supernatural blood. He paused, his gaze dropping to her chest. "But instead of destroying you, it merged with you, became part of you. Why would it do that? Because your blood isn't just supernatural, it's ancient. Older than vampire bloodlines, older than the council, older than the magic they used to forge that stake." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and pressed his fingers gently against the exposed metal. "Your ancestors were the oracles who walked between life and death, who saw all possible futures and chose which ones would come to pass. The bloodline was thought extinct." Clara's breath caught. "That's impossible. I'm from a border village. My parents were farmers. Your parents protected you by hiding what you were. But the blood doesn't lie. His thumb brushed across the stake, and she felt the touch resonate through her entire body, through the metal now fused with her ribs. When did the vision start? 6 months ago, the night of the red moon. The night you turned 23. She blinked. How did you know my age? Because 23 is when oracle blood manifests, when the ancient power wakes up. He pulled his hand back, but the ghost of his touch remained. You were in danger the moment your visions began. Evangeline must have sensed it somehow, must have realized what you were becoming. So she tried to kill me before I could become a threat. She tried to kill you because she's been planning to overthrow me for years, and she couldn't risk you seeing her treachery. William's expression hardened. I've known about her ambitions for some time. I kept her close to monitor her moves. But when you warned me about my cousin, when your vision saved my life, I realized she would come for you eventually. The carriage rolled through the capital streets, past taverns spilling golden light and vampire lords walking arm in arm with their claimed consorts. Clara watched them through the window, her mind reeling. You knew she would try to kill me? And you let me stay in danger? I had guards on you every moment. Protections you never saw. His jaw tightened. But she moved faster than I anticipated. Used her council connections to arrest you during the day when I was in my chambers. By the time I was informed, you were already standing trial. You still could have stopped it. You could have spoken up before they... Her voice broke, and she pressed her hand against the stake again, feeling the strange fusion of metal and bone. I could have, William agreed, and I should have. But I needed to be sure. Sure of what? That you would survive. That the blood would protect you. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, bringing them face to face in the dim carriage. I've lived for 400 years, Clara. I've seen empires rise and fall. I've loved and lost more times than you can imagine. And I learned long ago not to let myself care too deeply, because everything mortal eventually turns to dust. Her heart beat faster, that strange new rhythm pulsing through the iron in her chest. Why are you telling me this? Because when you walked into my study 6 months ago and told me you'd seen my death, something in me broke open. Something I thought I'd sealed away centuries ago. His hand rose, hovering near her face but not quite touching. I've been watching you ever since, listening for your footsteps in the garden, finding excuses to walk past the kitchens. And when Evangeline arrested you, when I realized you might actually die... His fingers finally made contact, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I couldn't breathe. For the first time in 400 years, I couldn't breathe. Clara's eyes burned with unshed tears. You let them stake me through the heart. I know. And I will spend eternity making it up to you if you let me. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I had to know if the ancient blood would protect you, if it would transform you into what you were always meant to be, because a mortal woman, no matter how much I loved her, would die, would leave me, and I couldn't... His voice cracked. I couldn't watch you grow old and fade. I couldn't survive losing you. The carriage stopped in front of William's estate, the sprawling mansion where Clara had worked as a servant for the past 3 years. But she barely noticed. All she could see was the raw emotion on William's face, the vulnerability he was showing her. "So you gambled with my life?" "Yes. And if the blood hadn't protected me, if I died, then I would have followed you into death." He said it simply, as fact. "I already decided. If the stake killed you, I would walk into the sunrise and let it end me too." The carriage door opened, but neither of them moved. Clara stared at this ancient, powerful vampire king who had just admitted he would have destroyed himself if she died, who had watched her for 6 months, caring from a distance, unable to bridge the gap between their worlds until fate, or her own blood, had forced the issue. "I don't know if I can forgive you." "I don't expect you to. Not yet. Maybe not ever." He climbed out of the carriage and offered his hand. "But I'm asking you to stay, to let me help you understand what you've become, to protect you while the other vampire houses adjust to your existence." Clara looked at his outstretched hand, then at the mansion beyond. She'd scrubbed its floors, polished its silver, served wine to its master without ever dreaming she'd be anything more than a servant. But now the iron stake in her chest pulsed with ancient power. Her visions had sharpened into perfect clarity, and the vampire king himself was begging her to stay. She took his hand. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of discovery and fear. Clara's transformation continued, her body adjusting to the iron fused with her ribs, her powers growing stronger each day. William moved her from the servants' quarters to a suite in the East Wing, directly across from his own chambers. He brought scholars to study her, healers to monitor her health, and ancient texts describing the Oracle bloodline. The visions came constantly now, overwhelming in their clarity. She saw vampire houses plotting rebellion, saw human villages burning, saw futures where she died and futures where she lived. But more than that, she saw William. In every possible future, every branching path, he was there, protecting her, fighting for her, loving her with an intensity that terrified her. "I saw another attack," she told him one evening as they sat in his private library. "3 vampire lords from the eastern houses. They're planning to kidnap me during the harvest festival." William didn't look up from the treaty he was reading, but his jaw tightened. "I'll have them arrested before they can act." "You can't arrest everyone who wants to hurt me." "Watch me." She rose from her chair and crossed to where he sat, her shadow falling across his papers. "I'm not helpless anymore, William. The transformation made me strong. I can defend myself." Strong doesn't mean invincible. He finally looked up at her, and the concern in his silver eyes made her chest ache. "Please don't ask me to risk losing you. Not when I've only just found you." "You found me 3 years ago. You just didn't look." "I didn't dare." His hand reached out, caught hers, pulled her closer until she stood between his knees. "I've ruled for 400 years by keeping distance between myself and everyone else, by never letting anyone matter too much. But you shattered that the moment you walked into my study with terrified eyes and a warning that saved my life." She looked down at their joined hands, at the way his pale fingers threaded through hers. "I'm still angry with you." "I know." "I still have nightmares about the stake." "I know." "But I also dream about you." Her free hand rose to touch the iron protruding from her chest, feeling the steady pulse of power within it. "In every future I see, every possible path, you're the constant, the one choice that doesn't change." William stood slowly, his hands framing her face with infinite gentleness. In 400 years, I've never believed in fate, never believed in destiny. I've always thought we made our own choices, carved our own paths. His forehead touched hers. But then, a servant girl with oracle blood walks into my study and tells me she's seen my death. And suddenly, I understand. Everything before you was just waiting. Everything after you is finally living. Clara's breath hitched. The other houses will never accept us. They'll see me as a threat, as something unnatural. Then they'll learn to fear you, to respect you, to bow to you. His lips brushed her temple. Because I'm going to make you my queen, Clara. Not my consort, not my companion. My equal, my blood queen. The world seemed to stop spinning. That's impossible. Vampire kings don't marry humans. You're not human anymore. You're something the bloodlines have never seen. Something ancient and powerful and mine. His hand slid down to her shoulders. Say yes. Bind yourself to me. Let me spend eternity proving that letting them stake you was the worst and best decision I ever made. Clara's mind raced through futures, seeing the consequences of this choice. She saw war with the Eastern houses, saw political upheaval, saw vampire lords who would rather die than accept a blood queen of oracle lineage. But she also saw peace eventually, saw a new era for the bloodlines, saw children born with both vampire strength and oracle sight, creating a bridge between the old world and something new. And in every future, in every possible timeline, she saw William standing beside her, protecting her, loving her, fighting the entire vampire world if necessary to keep her safe. Yes, she said, and watched his eyes flare with silver fire. But on one condition. Name it. Evangeline, I want to be there when you deal with her. Because Evangeline hadn't left the capital at dawn as ordered. Instead, she'd gone underground, gathering allies among the eastern houses, spreading lies about Clara being a demon who had corrupted their king. Clara had seen it in her visions, seen Evangeline's face twisted with hatred, seen her planning one final attack. William's expression darkened. She signed her own death warrant the moment she defied my command. I don't want you to kill her. Clara's hand pressed against the iron stake in her chest, feeling the power there. I want her to see what she created. I want her to understand that by trying to destroy me, she made me into something far more powerful than she could ever be. My perfect, vengeful queen. He kissed her then, slow and deep and claiming, and Clara felt the future solidify around them like a lock clicking into place. The Harvest Festival arrived 3 weeks later, exactly as Clara had foreseen. The great plaza filled with vampires from every bloodline, humans from the surrounding territories, and merchants selling blood wine and enchanted wares. Lanterns floated overhead, casting golden light across the cobblestones, and music drifted from a dozen different performers. Clara stood on the palace balcony overlooking the plaza, wearing a gown of deep crimson silk that William had commissioned for her. The iron stake was visible above the neckline, gleaming against her skin like dark jewelry. She'd stopped trying to hide it. Let them see what she'd survived. Let them see what she'd become. They're here, William murmured beside her, his hand resting on the small of her back. The 3 lords from the eastern houses, and Evangeline is with them. Clara's enhanced senses picked them out immediately. 3 vampire lords in ceremonial armor, moving through the crowd with predatory grace. And there, trailing behind them in a hooded cloak, was Evangeline. Clara could feel her hatred even from this distance, could sense the poisoned blade hidden in her sleeve. Let them come. Clara, trust me. I've seen how this ends. She descended the palace steps alone, as they'd planned. William stayed on the balcony, visible to everyone but far enough away to avoid interference. The crowd parted for Clara as she walked into the plaza, whispers following her like a wave. Everyone had heard about the oracle girl who survived her execution. Everyone wanted to see the iron stake protruding from her chest. The 3 vampire lords approached with false smiles and courteous bows. "Lady Clara," the tallest one said, his voice dripping with mockery. "We've heard such fascinating stories about you. We simply had to meet the woman who captured our king's heart. Lord Rothschild, Lord Desmond, Lord Vane." Clara nodded to each in turn. "I'm so glad you could attend the festival, though I'm surprised you brought such a large entourage." Because she could sense them now. The 20 vampire warriors hidden in the crowd, waiting for the signal to attack. Evangeline's backup plan. Lord Rothschild's smile faltered slightly. "I'm sure I don't know what you mean. You're here to kidnap me, to take me to the eastern houses and use me as leverage against William." Clara's voice carried through the plaza, and the crowd went silent. "You believe that if you control the oracle, you control the future." The 3 lords' expressions shifted from false courtesy to cold calculation. Lord Desmond's hand moved toward his weapon. "You should have stayed in the kitchens, girl. And you should have stayed in the east." Clara's power unfurled like wings, visible as silver light radiating from the iron in her chest. The stake pulsed with ancient magic, and suddenly, everyone in the plaza could see what she saw. Threads of possibility hanging in the air, futures branching out like a tree made of light. She reached out and grabbed the thread that led to this moment, this choice, this future where she won. The iron stake sang with power, and the 20 hidden warriors stumbled as their minds filled with visions. They saw their own deaths, saw the consequences of attacking her, saw every possible future where they failed. One by one, they dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the weight of destiny. "What are you doing?" Lord Vane gasped, his own mind clearly experiencing the same flood of visions. "I'm showing you the truth. I'm not a weapon to be controlled. I'm not a tool to be used." Silver light intensified, and Clara felt the iron stake pulse in rhythm with her heart. "I am the oracle. I am the future. And I am your queen." "No!" Evangeline's voice rang out as she threw off her hood and lunged forward, the poisoned blade flashing in her hand. "You're nothing. You're a servant, a human, a mistake that should have died." But Clara had seen this moment 1,000 times in her visions. She'd watched Evangeline's attack from every angle, studied every possible outcome. When the blade came within inches of her throat, Clara simply reached up and caught Evangeline's wrist, her enhanced strength stopping the attack cold. "I am everything you tried to destroy," Clara said, and the silver light from her chest wrapped around Evangeline like chains. "And you will never hurt anyone again." The power surged through the iron stake, through Clara's ribs, through her entire body. She channeled it into Evangeline, not to kill. William had wanted that honor, but to bind. The silver light solidified into marks on Evangeline's skin, burning symbols that every vampire would recognize. The mark of exile. The brand that would strip Evangeline of her power, her status, her immortality. "No!" Evangeline screamed as her vampire strength drained away, as her fangs receded, as 400 years of power evaporated like smoke. "No, please, I'll leave. I'll disappear. Please don't make me mortal." "You wanted me dead because I was human. Now you can experience what that truly means." The transformation completed in seconds. Evangeline collapsed to the cobblestones, no longer an ancient vampire, but a mortal woman who would age and die like anyone else. The crowd gasped, and the 3 Eastern lords backed away, their faces pale with fear. "Take her away," William commanded, appearing at Clara's side as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "Find her a cottage in some distant human village. Let her live out her mortal years knowing what she lost." Guards moved forward to haul Evangeline away, her screams fading as they dragged her from the plaza. The 3 Eastern lords immediately fell to their knees, their heads bowed in submission. "Forgive us, Your Majesty," Lord Rothschild pleaded. "We didn't understand. We didn't realize what she was." "Now you do." William's arm wrapped around Clara's waist, pulling her against his side. "This is Clara, my blood queen, the oracle who will guide our people into a new age. Anyone who challenges her challenges me. Anyone who threatens her threatens the entire vampire kingdom." The crowd erupted into whispers, but no one dared protest. They'd all seen Clara's power, had felt the weight of her visions. The iron stake gleamed above her heart, proof of what she'd survived, symbol of what she'd become. "The wedding will be held at the next full moon," William announced, his voice carrying across the plaza. "All bloodlines are commanded to attend. All houses will swear fealty to their new queen." Clara looked up at him, this ancient vampire king who had gambled with her life and won, who had watched her suffer in transformation and emerge as something unprecedented. She should still be angry. She should hold on to her rage like a shield. But when she looked into his silver eyes, when she felt his arm tight around her waist and saw the pride and love and absolute devotion in his expression, she couldn't hold on to anger anymore. "You're very sure of yourself." "I'm sure of you, of us, of the future you showed me." His lips brushed her temple. "I've seen 1,000 possible endings to my existence, and you're in every single one." The full moon came, and with it, a wedding that would be remembered for centuries. The ceremony took place in the ancient cathedral where vampire kings had been crowned for millennia, where blood oaths were sworn and eternal bonds were forged. Clara walked down the aisle in a gown of silver and crimson, the iron stake visible and gleaming, a symbol of her survival and transformation. Every vampire house in the kingdom attended, even those who had opposed her elevation. They knelt when she passed, acknowledging the power radiating from her, accepting the reality that their world had changed. The oracle bloodline had returned, and it had chosen their king. William waited for her at the altar, devastating in black formal robes, his silver eyes never leaving her face. When she reached him, he took her hands in his, and the touch sent power crackling between them, her ancient oracle magic meeting his vampire strength, creating something entirely new. "I, William Thorne, King of the Vampire Bloodlines, swear myself to you, Clara Vance, oracle and survivor, warrior and queen." His voice filled the cathedral. "I will protect you with all my strength, honor you with all my power, and love you through every possible future." Clara's throat tightened with emotion. Clara Vance, Oracle and Survivor, swear myself to you, William Thorne. The iron in her chest pulsed with silver light. I will guide you with my sight, stand beside you in battle, and love you through every timeline, every possibility, every moment until the stars burn out. The priest stepped forward with a ceremonial blade, ancient and blessed. In vampire weddings, blood sealed the bond, but this was different. This was the first union between a vampire king and an oracle queen, and it required something more. The blade cut across William's palm, then Clara's. Their blood mingled, crimson and silver swirling together, and the cathedral shook with the force of the magic binding them. The iron stake in Clara's chest flared with light, and she felt William's immortality flow into her, felt their futures merge into a single, unbreakable thread. I can see our children, she whispered, visions flooding her mind. They have your strength and my sight. They'll be the bridge between humans and vampires, the beginning of a new bloodline. How many? 3. All girls, all terrifying. Perfect. The bond settled into place with a sensation like a key turning in a lock. Clara felt William's presence in her mind now, his thoughts and emotions as clear as her own. She felt his love for her, deep and ancient and absolutely certain. She felt his relief that she had survived, his pride in what she'd become, his determination to protect her until the end of time itself. My queen, William murmured, and kissed her in front of the entire vampire kingdom. The celebration lasted 3 days. Vampire houses that had never agreed on anything united in their acknowledgement of the new blood queen. The Eastern lords swore oaths of loyalty. The Western families offered gifts of ancient texts and powerful artifacts. Even the Northern clans, who rarely ventured south, sent representatives to witness this moment. Clara stood on the palace balcony on the 3rd night, watching the capital city spread out below her. Lanterns glowed like stars, and she could hear music and laughter drifting up from the streets. William's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. What do you see when you look at all this? Clara let her vision expand, let the oracle sight show her the threads of the future. She saw their children learning to control their gifts. She saw peace negotiations with human kingdoms who had feared vampires for millennia. She saw new laws protecting both species. She saw a world where the divisions between vampire and human began to blur, where love and power and destiny could exist together. I see possibility. I see change. I see centuries of work ahead of us. Daunting. We have time, all the time in the world. She turned in his arms, her hand resting over his heart. Thank you for gambling with my life. You've forgiven me? I understand why you did it. You've lived for 400 years watching everything mortal die. You needed to know I could survive before you let yourself truly love me. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. It was cruel and calculated and absolutely terrifying. But it also made me into someone who can stand beside you as an equal, someone strong enough to be your queen. I would take it back if I could. I would endure any pain to spare you that moment. I know. But the iron stake didn't destroy me, William. It completed me. It woke up the power that was always there, waiting. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling the metal fused with her ribs, the ancient magic pulsing through it. Evangeline wanted to kill me, But instead, she created something she could never defeat. She made me immortal. She made me powerful. She made me your match in every way. You were always my match. The iron just made everyone else see it. They stood together as the dawn approached, as the sky lightened from black to gray to gold. Clara didn't burn in the sunlight. She never had, despite her transformation. The oracle blood protected her, made her something that belonged to both day and night, both human and vampire worlds. When the sun finally broke over the horizon, William kissed her temple and retreated to the shaded interior of the palace. But Clara stayed on the balcony, the iron stake gleaming in the morning light, her power radiating across the city like a promise. The Blood Council had staked her through the heart, thinking they were executing a threat. Instead, they'd crowned a queen. And in every possible future, in every timeline Clara could see, that decision changed the vampire world forever. She smiled as the sun warmed her face, as the iron in her chest pulsed with ancient power, as William's love echoed through their bond. This was just the beginning. Did you like the story? Do you want a part 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, big shout out to our viewers from Fort Wayne, Indiana, USA, Canada, Michigan, London, Queensland, Birmingham, UK, Long Island, New York, Albany, Central Florida, California, Missouri. Thank you for being part of my small, humble community. To our growing viewers, comment below which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching.